In this lesson, we are going to be learning how to multiply decimals using the standard algorithm. Make sure you write the steps a little bit smaller because it's kind of wordy. The first thing we need to do when we are multiplying decimals is write the problem vertically. Now, when you add and subtract decimals, you have to make sure you line up the decimals. But when you multiply decimals, you do not need to line up the decimals. So what you're going to do is you're going to write the longer number on top. It doesn't have to be bigger, it just has to have more digits. And then from the right side of the problem, you're going to line up the shorter number from right to left. The second step is to then just multiply using the standard algorithm. Now, while you are doing the standard algorithm, I want you to make sure that you ignore the decimals. Just pretend like they're not there and use the standard algorithm like normal. Once you have your answer, you have to look back at the problem. At this point, you want to count the number of digits that appear after the decimal. I like to connect the two decimals and circle all of the numbers that are after it so I can see exactly how many digits are after. Remember, if you're working with a whole number is, for example, 5.0. So there wouldn't be any numbers after that decimal. Last but not least, now that we know how many numbers are after the decimal, you're going to place the decimal, that same number of digits, with the same number of digits behind the decimal point in the product. Now that's very wordy and kind of tough to understand. Let's write it down first. So again, what we said is place the same number of digits behind the decimal point in the product. When we're talking about the number of digits, you're getting that number from step 3. So if there's 3 numbers after the decimal point in the problem, there should be 3 numbers after the decimal point in the actual product or the answer. Okay, if you don't have everything written down, make sure you pause and get it all written down before we move on. So we're going to go through some examples now. Before you solve any of these problems, you want to remember to think about what we've learned in the last 2 lessons. Are the numbers you're multiplying bigger than 1 or less than 1? Because remember, if you're multiplying by a number that is less than 1, your answer will turn out smaller than the other number you're multiplying by. And that kind of answers the second question you're asking yourself. Will my answer be bigger or smaller than the numbers I'm multiplying? So let's look at this first example. If I have 3 6/10 times 751 thousandths. Now, when you look at this second number, 751 thousandths, that number is less than 1. And because it's less than 1, you know that your answer is going to be smaller than 3.6 because what you're multiplying by is less than 1. All right, step 1 says to write the problem vertically. When I write this problem vertically, I want to put the longer number on top. The first number has 2 digits and the second number has 3 digits. So I'm going to put 751 thousandths on the top because it's a longer number. So 751 thousandths on the top. Now it does say you do not have to line up the decimals. So I'm going to take that 6 and write it right underneath the first number and the 3 next to it. I still have numbers lining up, but my place values aren't lining up. Step 2 says to multiply using the standard algorithm. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 5 is 30. Carry the 3. 6 times 7 is 42, plus 3 is 45. I go on to the second number, the 3. I need to remember that when I multiply by the 3, I have to put that place value holder there. So now I'm going to multiply the 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1. 3 times 7 is 21. Plus 1 is 22. I add those digits. 6 and 0 is 6. 0 and 3 is 3. 5 and 5 is 10. Carry the 1. 4 and 1 is 5, and 2 is 7, and then the 2. Step 2 says to count the number of digits that appear after the decimals. And like I said, I like to connect my decimals and circle what's after it. And when I see that, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers that appear after the decimal. So I go to the answer, place the same number of digits behind the decimal point in the product. Step 4, I go to the answer and I go 4 swoopies in. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you notice I had 4 numbers after the decimal in my answer, and now I have 4 numbers after the decimal in my product. I'm sorry, 4 numbers after the decimal in my problem, and then 4 numbers after the decimal in my product. So my final answer then, 2 and 7,036 10,000ths. All right, now when we give the next ones, I want you to pause the video and try them on your own first, and then check if you did them right. Let's do 14 and 35 hundredths times 42. Lining them up, we have 14 and 35 hundredths on top because it's taller, longer. And then the 42 goes directly below it. All right, remember to pause the video and try it out yourself. Okay, so let's see how you did. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 1 is 2. I am multiplying by the 4 now, so I have to put my placeholder. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry the 2. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Carry the 1. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 1 is 17. Carry the 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. I add these numbers. I have 0, 7, 12, carry the 1, 7, 8, 9, 10, carry the 1, and that is 6. When I look at how many numbers I have after the decimal, I see that there's a decimal here and the 3 and the 5 are after. The bottom number is a whole number. It's 42. The decimal for 42 is after it, so there's really no numbers past it. So there really only are 2 numbers past the decimal here. I swoopy 1, 2, because if there's 2 numbers after the decimals in the problem, there needs to be 2 numbers after the decimals in the answer. And I get 602 and 70 hundredths. Now you really could have written that same answer without the 0 and wrote 602 and 7/10. Okay, the last example is 8 and 9/10 times 6 and 2 hundredths. I want you to try this one again. And I'm not going to set it up for you this time. I want to make sure you know how to do that on your own. Come back when you're done and see how you did. Okay, I would put the 6 and 2 hundredths on top because it's longer than 8 and 9/10. I multiply the 9 times the 2. That is 18. I carry the 1. 9 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. And 9 times 6 is 54. Put my 0 placeholder in. 8 times 2 is 16. I carry the 1. 8 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. And 8 times 6 is 48. I add my digits. I have 8, 7, 5, 13, carry the 1, and 5. To find out where my decimal point goes, I go back into my problem. I connect my decimals and circle and see that I have 1, 2, 3 numbers after the decimal. So I should be 1, 2, 3 times into the problem. The number of digits past the decimal in the problem matches the number of digits past the decimal in my answer. So 8 and 9/10 times 6 and 2/100 is 53 and 578 thousandths. Okay, now you are going to practice this a little bit on your own. Good luck.